to be an encouragement with these wonderful resources up on the stage. Are there any questions? People in the audience, yes, in the back, please. Maybe you can tell us who you are, too, before you speak.
Anthony Perry, I'm a mechanical engineering major and
geek.
Yeah. Kind of fun over at actually looking at hybrid race cars. Anyway, I just had a question for Navistar and also under one comment with the supply and demand. Essentially, with your comment when you're saying that plugging in cars and then when the demand is low, at that point when it actually spike in demand because everybody plugging in their cars at the same time. And I'm not a business major, so.
Okay. Is that to me or to Tom?
It's to you for your one comment with supply and demand for the electric grid.
Okay.
And Tom, my only other question was on the sake of engines, how we're looking at, electric engines probably are, going to take over a little. But don't they run on a rare metal that is, they run on lithium, which is even more scarce than oil, isn't it? And I'm just wondering if that going to keep that movement for the electric motor. What's going to take over after the electric motor can't go on.
Yeah. If you think about electricity production in this country, think about two sources of energy. One is called base load, one is called peak load. Base load is coal. You can't ramp it up and down very fast. There's big monster plants that pump out energy. Wind is actually technically base load. So is solar, because you can't ramp them up and down. Peak loads are things like natural gas. Something you can ramp up really fast when needed and drop it back down. Much less efficient. Better for the environment, but much less efficient. In an average day, you come towards the middle of the day, you've got a peak load, and then at night you drop down to a base load, and you do this cycle. You drop down to a trough. The base load can only come up to the bottom of that trough. If you can raise the trough, you can fill more of the demand curve with base load energy. You can start to bring more wind and solar online, and you can start to use more efficient big plants to run it, and you can minimize those peak demands. So if you're drawing energy at night, when the demand is lowest, you're leveling the demand curve, and you can optimize the system to be much more efficient. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Nuclear is also, that's total base load. You can't ramp up and down nuclear power plants at all. One thing you do, by the way, right now, to raise that demand curve, you can actually drive the base load above the trough, and then there are multiple technologies to try and store that energy. As crazy as it sounds, if you have a nuclear power plant that's producing energy that the grid doesn't need, you can use it to pump water uphill and then fill up a dam where there's a hydroelectric plant, and then you can draw that power out the next day when you need it. Or you can compress air in a cave or in a tank, or you can move a flywheel. There are different ways to capture the energy, but it's all about optimizing the system and leveling the demand curve.
I like those ideas.
Sorry?
I like those ideas, but still it was not used to still create.
The question you posed to me, I'm not sure I fully understood it. In the batteries, I don't think, the trucks currently now, the electric trucks for storing the energy, I don't think those are based on lithium, they're on lead. The engine, the electric engine, I'm not sure those use a lot of lithium either.
I thought it was the engines for like the hybrid, I don't know much about the Navistar motors for I know that Prius and the smaller car hybrids, they run on lithium ion batteries.
Okay.
So that's consumers who's driving.
I think there needs to be a lot of progress in the engine as well as the battery technologies going forward. Whether that ends up being lithium, based on lithium or whatever metal, that'll basically take care of itself.
I mean, if you want to talk about one of the hottest areas for research, it is in batteries. In this competition, lead is still a viable alternative, as much as people think it's ancient technology. It's not. Nickel cadmium, nickel hydrides, lithium. And the idea that, lithium is a scarce resource, I get a lot of pushback. Right now the big question is, okay, Bolivia has, 50% of the world's reserves, 50% of the world's known reserves. And there's a lot of question out there, what are the actual reserves of lithium? And then even if necessary, you can mine lithium from the ocean, as strange as that sounds as well. So we're only tapping the beginnings of this, but I would also add that for electrics and hybrids to be viable on a sustainable basis, those batteries have to be recycled. They have to be. And frankly, I think it's a poor business model to expect the owner to own those batteries. I would not want to buy a car where I own those batteries. I want to give them back when I'm done with them. I think that's critical to the business model.
You know, the other thing we need to get away from, most of the elements, the metals that you mentioned are very toxic. I mean, the cadmium, the lead, all of those, we need to not just come up with a battery that's very efficient, but one that doesn't use these elements that are so toxic, because eventually they are going to end up in the environment. That needs to be a focus.